Hi, and welcome to Colleen's Corner. Today, I want to tackle the issue of discipleship and the fact that recent surveys have shown that discipleship in the United States is at the lowest point of all time, that Christians just do not feel that discipleship is part of a process on the Christian journey, and that only 2 to 3% of adults would be defined as disciples of Christ. Now, that definition means they're being discipled while they're discipling others. I think the definition for people who are on the side of being discipled probably goes up to about 10%. But in our churches, it's just not a common thing to say that people, as part of their spiritual formation journey, need to be discipled from others. And for Americans, we're very independent. Like, the whole thought of discipling, I know for me for many years, just sounded like a controlling thing. But Jesus gives us a model of making disciples, making ambassadors, if you will, for him, with his 12 disciples. He invests in 12, and they turn around and invest in however many, and on and on and on. Christianity was always supposed to pass on through this discipleship process, that we bring people in and we teach them and help them understand. And why this is important to me, I think I'm still reflecting back on the COVID years, feeling like that's about 100 years ago, but then at other times it feels very, very recent. And I just had such an overwhelming disappointment for how Christians acted during COVID, demanding their own rights. You know, pastors had a terrible time as they couldn't do anything right. And it just was a time where I thought, if we are disciples of Christ, which signing up as a Christ follower is not a ticket to heaven, it's also meaning pick up your cross and follow me. It's a path of suffering. It's a path of giving everything up in order to follow Jesus, to be his disciple. How did I make sense of everything that I was seeing from people who claimed to be Christ followers? And it was a real struggle and a challenge. Not that I do this perfectly by any means, but I could really understand words that were being thrown at the church, like hypocrisy, as a reason that people no longer wanted to be part of Christianity, or even why people were leaving the church. And so this concept of discipleship becomes really, really important. And in the absence of it, we put a lot of things in the God spot that should be reserved only for God, meaning idols that are the places that we give our hearts to, give our money to, give our time to. For some people, it's huge mansion houses. For other people, I mean, it can be a whole variety of different things. But is that an idol, or are we truly being disciples of God? You can have a big mansion and be storing that in some way as part of what God's called you to. That part is not the problem, but it's more about, am I really willing to give it all up for the sake of the cross? I mean, we see it even in the parables. The rich young man who wanted to follow Jesus, and he said, go sell all you own and give to the poor, and then come follow me. And because the man was so rich, it was a cost that was too great. So I would encourage all of us, if your churches are not presenting a way for you to be discipled, to really grow in the faith, learn about the Bible, learn what it really means, even in the nuances of cultural context and, history, and ways that we can understand things that were written to begin with in a very different language and translated a bunch of different ways. All of that is part of discipleship. and as well as accountability for how we're representing and being ambassadors for Christ. So, encourage you to be thinking about this area of discipleship if it's not part of your life. We are called to not only be disciples, but to go out into all the nations and make disciples. And so it really needs to be a significant part of our daily journey. Hopefully that was helpful for you to think about. Until next time, this was Colleen's Corner.